You're lying on your bed, late at night, staring at ceiling, and your sleep is disturbed by something that is itching your mind. Your mind is somewhere else. You keep replaying something that happened earlier today, a conversation, a moment, something small, but it's stuck with you, and now you're thinking, I should have said something different. I should have responded better. Why didn't I say that? So you run it back in your head. This time, you say everything perfectly. You win the argument. You sound confident. You finally become the version of yourself you wanted to be in that moment. And for a second, it feels real. But then you realize you're just lying there, alone, staring at the ceiling, and none of it actually happened. But you don't stop. Your mind keeps going, again, and again, and again. And it's not just arguments. Sometimes you imagine your future, standing in front of people, successful, respected, finally becoming someone everyone admires. Everything goes exactly the way you want. No mistakes, no awkward moments, no rejection, just perfect. And honestly, it feels better than real life. Now here's the question. Is this just normal imagination, or is your mind slowly getting addicted to a life that doesn't even exist? Here's the thing. What you're experiencing is not completely abnormal. In fact, your brain is doing something very natural. Imagination, by itself, is actually one of the most powerful abilities you have. As Albert Einstein once said, imagination is more important than knowledge. And when you really think about it, that makes sense. Because imagination is what allows humans to create things that don't exist yet. It's what drives creativity, innovation, problem solving. Every invention you see today, every piece of art, every breakthrough idea started as a thought in someone's mind before it became real. Your brain is constantly running what psychologists call mental simulations. Athletes do this all the time. Before a big game, they imagine every move, every reaction, every possible outcome. Creators visualize their ideas before building them. Successful people often picture their future before they actually reach it. So when you imagine yourself being confident or successful or handling a situation perfectly, your brain is technically practicing. It's trying to prepare you. And in the right amount, this is actually a good thing. It helps you plan. It helps you understand people better. It even helps you feel motivated. So, no. Imagination itself is not the problem. But here's where things start to change, because for some people, it doesn't stop at just imagination. It slowly becomes something more, something harder to control. At first, it's just small moments, replaying a conversation, imagining a better response, thinking about a better version of yourself. But over time, those moments get longer, more frequent. And before you even realize it, you're spending more time in your head than in your actual life. You're lying in bed, lost in scenarios, standing in front of a mirror and talking to yourself, walking somewhere, but mentally somewhere else. Even during conversations, part of your mind drifts away. And the reason is simple. Your imagination feels better than reality. Because in your head, everything is under your control. You say the perfect things. You never get embarrassed. You never get rejected. Everything goes exactly the way you want. No awkward pauses, no mistakes, no uncertainty, just perfect outcomes. And your brain starts to notice that. It starts to prefer that world. Because real life is messy, unpredictable, sometimes uncomfortable. But your imagination, it's safe, it's controlled, it's perfect. And that's where the real shift happens. Not when you imagine, but when you start choosing imagination over reality. And this is where it starts becoming something deeper. Something psychologists often refer to as maladaptive daydreaming. Not just imagination anymore, but a pattern that begins to feel almost uncontrollable. You tell yourself, just a few minutes, but those few minutes turn into half an hour, then suddenly your whole evening is gone. And the weird part is, You're aware of it. You know you should be studying. You know you have work to do. You know there are things in your real life that need attention, but your mind keeps pulling you back into those scenarios because they feel better. They feel easier. They feel safe. And slowly, it starts becoming a form of escape, not from reality itself, but from the stress, the pressure, the expectations that come with it. Instead of dealing with anxiety, your mind creates a version of life where anxiety doesn't exist. Instead of facing difficult situations, you imagine a version where everything works out perfectly. And at first, it feels like relief. But over time, it starts costing you. Your focus drops. You struggle to stay present while studying or working. Conversations feel harder to stay in. Relationships start feeling distant because part of you is always somewhere else. And then come the feelings that hit even harder. Guilt. Because you know you're wasting time. Confusion. Because you don't fully understand why you can't stop. And sometimes, even shame. Because it feels like you're stuck in something you didn't choose. And that's the part most people don't talk about. It doesn't feel like a habit anymore. It starts to feel like an addiction. But here's the most important thing to understand. Imagination itself is not the problem. It never was. In fact, it's one of the most powerful tools your mind has. So the goal is not to stop imagining. That's not even possible. And honestly, it's not something you should want to lose, because that same imagination is also your creativity, your vision, your ability to see a better version of your life. The real problem begins when you lose control over it. When imagination stops being something you use and starts becoming something that uses you. When it pulls you away from your real life. Instead of helping you improve it, when you start living more in your head than in reality. That's when it becomes dangerous. Because imagination is meant to guide your actions, not replace them. So if you've been doing this, getting lost in your own head, living out scenarios that feel better than real life, you're not weird. And you're definitely not alone. Your mind isn't trying to harm you. It's trying to protect you. It's trying to give you a version of life where things finally go right. But here's what you need to remember. Your imagination was never meant to replace your life. It was meant to guide it, to help you prepare, not to help you escape. Because imagining a better future feels good. But building it, that's what actually changes your life, and that only happens in reality. So the next time you catch yourself drifting away into those perfect scenarios, pause for a second and ask yourself one simple question. Am I using my imagination, or is it using me? Because the moment you become aware of it, you take your control back, and everything starts to change from there. And if this video made you realize something about yourself, or someone you know, send it to them, because sometimes understanding what's happening inside your mind is the first step to finally changing it.